Here we go. Ooh. Welcome to a social place. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of A Social Place, brought to you by Ammolite Studios, a podcast created out of pure love for the people. Just want to invite amazing creatives, artists, talents, musicians, writers, directors, photographers, brand owners, just amazing people. Welcome. It's me, Emil Nava, and Alex Russick.
Hi there.
How are you, Alex?
Dude, I'm doing good, really good. You know, we just came back from Thanksgiving break.
We did.
You know, really fantastic time.
We did.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes when you got time off, you know, and you're trying to, you got to be ready for time off. I don't know if you find that, but I have to be ready to take, you know, at that right moment when I take the time off, mentally I have to be ready for it, you know?
Yeah, otherwise you'd sort of torture yourself on the time off.
Exactly. Mine was a bit torturous, if I'm honest.
You got to earn the time off,
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like I earned it, though. Jesus, I feel like I earned it. We have a very special guest today, Anasa Troutman. Anasa is just an amazing person outright. I met her by watching a talk that she was doing in COVID, and I was watching it on Zoom, and I ended up hitting up someone that I knew to contact her because I said that I would just have to meet her. She is amazing.
Oh, cool.
She runs and has created The Big We, which is a social impact organization doing absolutely amazing things in the world. She's a producer, creative, musician. She is so many amazing things, but I just love her outlook on the world and the way she talks about her beliefs and her thoughts. And I don't want to speak too much for her. I want her to come on and tell us anew more about what she does. But very excited to welcome Anasa Troutman, ladies and gentlemen.
It's me.
Ooh. Play.
That was nice.
How does Anasa sound to you, Alex?
Oh, we've only just
That's about
met.
right.
We've only just met, but I bet you can play something beautiful.
That sounds very accurate to me.
He is actually very on point. I ask him a lot, like, what do you think that sounds like? We're talking about a subject. I'm like, what do you think that sounds like? I had such an issue introducing you.
Why?
I don't. I just think you do. Ultimately, I just think you're an amazing person.
Thank you.
But that does not sum you up, you know. And I think you do so many amazing things. You're a writer, a producer. You're big in the social impact space.
In all fairness, I
Yeah.
also have trouble introducing myself.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Can you introduce yourself?
Yikes. No. I mean, yes. My name is Anasa Troutman. I live in Memphis, and I am a writer, producer, and cultural strategist, mostly.
See, this is why I needed you.
But I'm also an emerging real estate developer and philanthropist and investor because I keep expanding in my humanity.
That is what I like to hear. I think we talk a lot about expansion on this
we do.
podcast, and us. I think that it's time, isn't it? I actually today had a call with an astrologist.
Whoa.
Yeah, it kind of blew my mind, actually.
What did they say?
I mean, I don't think I can divulge a lot, but we spoke a lot about change, you know, and evolution and the world and where we're at. So it's such a crazy time, but I don't know, it feels like there's a big kind of evolution in the air. I think even without speaking to an astrologist, I could feel that, but they kind of confirmed it, you know, that there's these moments in time where big change happens.
Quantum leaps.
Yeah.
We are making a humanity quantum leap right now.
That's what's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I was feeling it, but he confirmed it, you know, because it just feels like such a mad time. But anyway, we'll get into that. We're going to do some icebreaker questions.
Ooh,
Icebreaker
I like
questions.
it.
What brings you greater joy? Beach or lake?
Ooh.
You didn't think I was coming with the good there.
I didn't know you were going to have options.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can answer it blanket as well.
I feel like that's not a fair question.
But no, okay. Let's start
Beach
with
or lake?
let's start with the open question. No options. What brings Anasa Troutman greater joy? Greatest joy.
I'm laughing because I did a fireside chat at a conference this morning, and that was the first question that they asked me.
You're lying.
I'm not lying. They were like, "Let's talk about joy." I was like,
"Oh my gosh, it's the day.
What?
It's the day of joy.
It is a day of joy, which is totally appropriate for me.
So tell us what
Music.
What music?
Music.
Alex, come
Music.
on. It's your
brings
cue.
me joy.
It's your cue. Make us feel good, Alex. Just what is the sound of joy?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
No, you got this. You got this.
You can do it.
You can do it.
I like that.
That's pretty damn joyful.
I thought I wasn't going to like it, and I did.
Beach or lake?
Beach.
Good choice. Really, I say good choice. I love the beach and I love the lake.
Well, this is why I was like, it's an unfair question because it really depends on the day. But if I had to go like over a lifetime, it's definitely beach.
You're right. It's way more expansive.
Beach.
It is.
Definitely beach.
The ocean's there. I love a lake though because I just feel they're so placid. But I think you're right. You would get bored of a lake if it was all.
I really love the waves.
Yeah.
I love the action of the waves, and I love like the expanse of the horizon that you don't get with a lake.
You're right, and I talk a lot about, because I go in the ocean every day now, and I talk about when you're in the ocean, it is a very unique feeling, that you are legitimately in the nature. 100%. You couldn't be more.
Also, the lake can get a little icky.
Yeah,
just
that's a good.
You gotta have on like some shoes or something.
Yeah.
You can't just be stepping on the ground.
And sometimes you get that little like moss moustache.
Gross, Emil.
Yeah,
gross.
That's true. That's true. Mm-mm. Oh, look, this sums us up as a duo. Coffee or tea?
Definitely tea.
Coffee for me. It's a late coffee today. Watch out. Movie or reading?
Oh, come on. That's not fair. Young child Anasa would say books, reading. Adult Anasa would say films.
Yeah, good answer. I was just saying that, like, I've never been a reader. I'm pretty dyslexic. I've only read 2 books in my life. Yep. One I was forced to. And I feel like podcasts are like the new books. You know, I swear my father, he was like, he couldn't really read and write and stuff, and he found books when he's like 60s, 70s. Oh, wow. And he said he just regretted, but he wished he'd found them earlier because he got so much knowledge and information from them. And I've always worried about that because I just don't read. But I swear with podcasts now, it's like you just listen to these like amazing people talk about. And I think
all kinds of things.
Yeah, everything from business to investment to filmmaking.
To string theory.
To everything. And that's why part of why we wanted to start this, is because we just, I don't know, I feel like I know so many amazing people and sometimes I just want, and someone at my company said as well, I was talking about like therapy with someone at the company the other day, and she said to me, she said, to me, it's all about access. I was talking about mental health and how we can do, better and do more in the space. And she was like, oh, it's all about access. And it did get me thinking with this as well. It's like giving the audience access to these conversations. And it's cliche, but like if you can help one kid like do what they want to do from these conversations, then it's a win. I digress. Sorry. Brunch with friends or home-cooked dinners?
Oh, these are hard.
Shout out the team. Shout out Tyler and the team. I mean,
again, I'm gonna go with home cooked dinner.
I agree.
I am. I love cooking for people.
And usually home cooked dinner, you get the like eau de terre meal. Like the hero meal. brunch, sometimes you get like a funky egg or something like that.
Sometimes.
And it's ruined.
And it's loud and obnoxious. At home, you
Yes.
get to set your own ambiance. You get to choose your own music. You get to stay as long as you want.
Very, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching or learning?
I think they're the same thing.
Wow, that is such an Anasa answer. Like, you're so right. They are. They are. Wow,
That is a very Anasa answer. You're not wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're just a great mind. You're a great thinker.
Thank you.
Summer or holidays?
Well, my favorite holiday is my birthday, which is in the summer. So there you go.
Oh, you smashed that. Sleeping in or early mornings? Something I am actually intrigued to know. What are you? It's very
These days, I'm early mornings,
good.
which is a shocker.
That is good to hear. I'm such a believer that if you get up early, it's a different life.
Yeah, it is.
Like, well, this is crazy, but yesterday or the day before, I woke up at 4 a.m. and I woke up and I started working. I worked till like 5:30. Then I did like hot yoga at 6. I did some more work 7. I was like, it's 9 a.m. I'm getting on the first Zoom.
That's
I'm
right.
like, I'm so, you know.
Right.
And then your day can wind down a bit early. You don't have that pressure. I feel like you have pressure sometimes to work late. That concept of working late, you know,
Yeah.
rather than like starting early and then.
But also the energy of the morning is so placid like the lake
Yeah.
that even if you're working hard, it feels totally different than if you're working hard at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful feeling no matter what you're doing.
No, you're
it's so
so
peaceful.
right.
I love the mornings now. I used to hate the mornings.
It's a great. I also feel like I like ramp like really
Absolutely.
hard fast. So it's like you need to be able to
You
be in
need
the
to.
peak mode.
100%.
Well, we didn't really need icebreakers because there is no ice to break. But here we are.
Those were good though.
Good. I've got some other great questions
I
coming
can't
up.
wait.
I like to ask this one first just because obviously I come from music videos. That's where I was born and
Yeah.
bred. What is your favourite music video? What's Anasa's favourite music video?
What a crazy question. I may not have one.
You have one?
I might not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my relationship with music has nothing to do with music videos.
Wow, that
At
is
all.
such a good. That's another Anasa answer. You didn't just appease my question and
No, I want to give you an answer, but I'm like going through the. I can think of some videos that I'll be like, I like that video, but I'm not like, oh my
Okay.
God, that video
What's
is
your
jamming.
favourite song of all time? There you go. Counted.
I believe that it is "As" by Stevie Wonder.
Wow, great.
If you ask me next Tuesday, I might say "Girl Blue" by Stevie Wonder. If you ask me 2 weeks from now, I might say another Stevie Wonder song. It's always Stevie Wonder, but it's mostly "As."
Wow. Big fans. We are
Yeah.
big fans. So I always love to ask the guests, how did we meet?
Ooh!
Because I always think it's a different perspective. I have a certain perspective. You have one. What's yours?
I actually really love how we met.
Yes.
It's like you are one of my favorite friendships.
No way.
You
Didn't
are.
Say that.
I am. Why? It's
You make
true.
me cry. First cry on the
Listen,
podcast. Yeah.
I believe in public crying. I think it's important for us to show emotions publicly.
I
So,
actually got asked a question a few weeks ago by Tyler when we were doing these questions. When was the last time you cried? And I said a lot, but I couldn't remember when. And then I realised I cry so much at the moment to these TikToks of like, there's these few TikTokers that they go and they like give money to like homeless people who don't expect it. And like there was this one, you know, I won't go too off topic. I just think they're just beautiful. Like the fact that there's these people who want to mouth off TikTok, you know, whatever it is, but it's like there's these kids out there just like making loads of money off TikTok. and people are giving like 15 grand to these kids.
Banks are sponsoring them.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow.
To like
They-
give $500 to people, like just an individual random person.
Yeah,
and
I
like,
love
move around.
that.
like Cash App will be like giving them 30 grand, and they'll be
Wow.
they'll walk into Target and they'll find like a family, and they'll say, "I'm buying all your shopping
Yep.
today."
Wow.
And they're like,
People's reactions are unbelievable. Like they need it so much, and like you know,
they like
And they break down,
they
I'm
break
sure.
straight away, and they're like, "You don't know
What
they're
this
like-
does for
and
me,
they're like
yeah.
looking around like someone sent that. It's just, and like the other day he met this one couple, homeless couple, and the woman had cancer and she
Oh
wasn't
my
getting
God.
help, and like he basically put out a crowdfunder or whatever. He raised 30 grand, got him a apartment. He got the guy a job. He basically just set this whole family up, and I was just like,
That just goes to show you, it's so easy
yeah
to help. It's
no.
so easy to extend yourself to another human being.
Well, that's actually one of my question I have later on, but
Okay, but back to us.
But yeah. Back to what we were talking
How did we
about.
meet?
How did we meet? Yeah.
Okay, this is my perspective of how we met. Is I did a like a little interview talk situation on Zoom in 2020, and I guess it was summertime.
Yeah.
It was just after George Floyd was murdered, and I was asked to come and do a conversation about artists and what artists' role in change was, and what we should all be doing right now to move forward. This leap that we're talking about that humanity is taking, like how do we? I like to call it being midwives. So I'm like, a new way is being born. It is happening whether we participate or not. And there are those of us who want to show up as midwives to help this birth come through more quickly, more easily, more peacefully. And I was talking about how we can be those midwives for the new way. And then somebody called me and was like, somebody saw you talk on this thing and he wants to talk to you. And I'm like, really? Somebody was listening? Who
I
is
was
it?
listening hard.
And then I think we had a Zoom. They hooked us up on a Zoom and we just met and it was instant.
I think you said something in that talk along the lines of, like, I think you said this. There's like there's the porthole,
Yes.
like open
Yes.
that kind of is the future of where we're going, and there's certain people that are ready to jump through that porthole, and like certain people that are also there to help people come through that porthole. I just thought that was such an amazing
Sounds like something I would say.
analogy. Yeah,
I love talking about portals.
yeah.
It's my favorite.
It was so good because I think at the time I was going through this thing. It was COVID, and everyone I was talking to was just trying to hide from the problem, and like they were just like bury themselves. And I was like, no, like this is when we take
That's right.
the bull by the horns and we
Lean in.
yeah, exactly, and embrace this change. It's not going to go back. Like everyone was like, when it goes back to normal, when it goes back to normal.
Back to normal. First of all, normal sucked. So I don't want to go
yeah.
back. But then also, it's not going to happen. That's not how life works.
No,
You know,
exactly.
You can't go back.
No, it's like something. It's like a vase smashing on the floor.
Right.
And I can't
I
wait
wanna
for it
go
to like
back to normal.
form. It's like it's not. It's done.
Yep, no longer.
I think also as well, I was so in awe of your like perspective of everything. Do you know what I mean? I think that I have an issue sometimes listening to people trying to educate me. I guess I'm like, maybe that's from my childhood and teachers and whatever, but like for me to find people that I really want to be educated by, I think is very rare. And that's really what I want. I wanted to just learn more about you and what you were doing. And we've done and talked about lots of things.
Know.
And I just wanted to kind of get you on, and I want you to tell us a bit about your journey. Like, how did you get here today?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's exciting you at the moment?
Well, I've been talking about my parents a lot today.
Yeah.
They're like my father in particular. So my father passed away in July.
Oh wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
I
did know that. Yeah.
It was. Let me tell you something. Death is wild.
Death is fucking crazy.
Wow.
And
I didn't know.
I don't know what it's like for a woman, but they say, I lost my father 3 years ago, and they say that like a man losing his father is like basically it's the moment when you become really
That's
a man.
right.
You know, you're that's it. You know,
Yeah.
you have to face life like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Like kind of on your own.
yeah,
My father was like a huge personality in my life and in our family. I was talking to him about him today, and I was I was laughing because I wanted to call him the matriarch of our family,
yeah,
which I know is not a thing to call your dad the matriarch, but he was the light in our family. He was
Yeah.
like the nurturer. He's a Pisces, so you know the Pisces man who's nurturing, who is creative and charming and smart and
Yeah.
all of those things. But he and my mother created this home for my sister and I when we were growing up. Um, if you think about Black families and you think about kind of like folks who are involved in civics, like thinking about the future, thinking about how we have rights and we are free and we are safe and all of that, there's a big debate. Like, is this pathway civil rights, like nonviolence and civil rights and civil disobedience? Or is it Black power, which is a whole, the classic like
Yeah.
Malcolm versus Martin conversation, which I, by the way, think is a false dichotomy, but we can talk about that later. But
I want to.
in my house, the answer was culture. Like, how do we liberate ourselves? The pathway that my parents chose was culture. So they had a group of friends. We had an extended family. Those families adopted like West African traditions and practices and aesthetics. That's why my name is Anasa. My sister's name is Nandi. My godbrothers was Taiwo and Timba. And like we were all named, given names that would remind us of our connection to West African culture. And music all the time. That's why I learned how to use a record player when I was 3. I've been listening to records. I've been DJing for myself since I was 3 years old. Like the stacks and stacks of records. And my mother was a dancer. My dad's playing the drums, and all the families are doing all the things. And so I was in my house, like art and culture and spirituality and politics and family and community was all one conversation. There was no there was no separation. It was an assumption that our cultural practices were our liberatory practices, were our political practices, were our spiritual practices, were our everything.
Yeah.
And that the people who were doing those things with us was our community. And so I eventually I had to go out in the world and discovered that everyone did not live like my family. I was shocked. I was shocked. Like shocked and dismayed.
I watched your TED talk again, you know, before we came on. I think it's, for those of you who haven't seen it, you should watch it. But I think you said something, you know, in that about when that moment happened to you, when that guy drove past you and, you know, screamed the N-word at you out the window and you were 8 and you were like, whoa, like,
wow.
This is, and you felt like correct me if I'm wrong, you felt like your parents had kind of shielded you from that and hadn't prepared you, you know, and I think that it really,
which I love, right? Like on one hand, I can be like, I wasn't ready for that, but I also love that I never got those speeches. A lot of Black kids get the speeches when they're growing up, like when you encounter the police, you need to do this. Like you have to work super hard because we have to do twice as much to get half. You know, like all those speeches I never got. My parents told me, "You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're smart. You can do anything. You can have anything. You can go anywhere." And I carry those lessons in my body today. Like a lot of who I am and how I move in the world is because my parents didn't prepare me for that jerk who screamed at me out the window, because they prepared me for a life of abundance and they prepared me for a life of self-determination. And I think it was an important lesson for me to have that experience, because that's also true and real in the world. But I don't want to be someone who got that at home and in the world. I want to be someone who, even when I encounter that in the world, I have something grounding me that I got from home that tells me that guy is wrong.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because I was just thinking as you were talking, like even outside of the race conversation, it's crazy that, because I think about this a lot, is like, when you're raising kids and stuff, it's it is very insular. It's like
Yeah.
you're basically only telling them what
Your perspective,
yeah,
your experience. Yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
I think it's like, it's kind of amazing, and I think we look at it like, oh my god, it's amazing, I'm affecting these young minds and blah, blah, blah. But like, I question this a lot with myself, like, what am I analyzing myself?
Yeah.
Like, am I analyzing what I'm telling them
Yeah.
there and how I'm telling them?
Yeah.
Because I think I'm doing right because I'm showering with love and attention, all these things, but also trying to figure out like, what's the real shit I need to.
I mean, I think that's a really great question, especially for 2022 parenting.
Yeah.
Because there is so much out in the world now. There's so many ways for your kids to get access to information that they wouldn't have had 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's like you used to be able to have your kids be in your bubble for so much longer.
Yeah, like
so that,
exactly. Yeah.
So by the time they get the outside stuff, like they are mature enough, sophisticated enough, and have enough of a relationship with you that they can come and be like, Dad, the craziest thing happened today.
Yeah.
But that's just not the case anymore.
These kids nowadays, they're like 3 and 4
Yeah.
and they're using YouTube, like, and
Listen.
they deter as well on there. Like, suddenly you get the phone and you're like, what are you on?
Yeah.
What are you watching?
My niece is 8, she's 7 or 8, and I was home last week. We were in the car and she's on the YouTube.
Yeah.
On the YouTube. I'm so old. Oh my God.
The YouTube.
And all of a sudden I hear this man's voice coming out of her iPad, and it's like, Raphael Warnock is a liar and he's a cheat and he has and I was like, what? What is this?
100%.
I said, Kylie, what are you listening to? This man is lying. And she said, I know, Mommy told me. And I said, well, Kylie, how do you discern between the people on the YouTube who are telling you the truth and who are not telling you the truth? And she was like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is something so crazy that even I've been thinking recently as myself, is that you don't know what's like. I watch these, I talk about how informative podcasts are, but sometimes I go, well, why am I believing this one guy who kind of looks old and looks like he's made investments? How do I know this guy's not just absolutely...
Yeah.
Because I had this meeting recently with someone, and a friend of mine who's big in the space was in the meeting, and when the person left, he was like, he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. But I was like thinking...
You were into it.
Yeah, so I was like...
Yeah.
And that with the the internet thing, for an adult to even feel misled, then what are the kids?
I mean, that's been our whole last 4 years, is a whole bunch
Yeah.
of folks on the internet saying things that are not true, and a whole bunch of people not only believing them, but going into action based on those things that those folks are saying. That's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
It's sort of, if I could interject real quick, it's sort of a weird upending of like a 20th century trend, which is that if you're trying to get something done in your life, like I'm sick, I need to go to a doctor, someone who wants to be a good doctor would say, well, I'll dress like a professorial doctor to make someone feel more comfortable to trust me being a doctor. There's like this sort of social agreement going on, but the internet has kind of like weaponized that and reversed it, where people are like, I'll put on a jacket and then say the earth is flat. And like that fools people. I mean, because they're still looking for like that marker of, these set of behaviors means like this person is solid,
I just want y'all to know, side note, I met this man who I was very smitten about. And he was like, started to talk to me about how the earth was flat and the moon landing was fake. And I was like, don't ever call me again.
No way.
For real. But that's my point.
Your friends are like, red flag.
Right. And I'm like, oh, that is 21st century internet. Because there's like all these black men who are now, but like, the earth is flat. And I'm like, wow, who are you listening to on the internet?
Yeah.
I love when you talk about imagination.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
And one thing, I think, let me get this right, because this is one of the most amazing things you've ever said to me, is that the world that is created right now is based off the imagination of people of the past.
Yes.
And the new world that we need to create needs to be based off our imagination.
100%.
What a fucking statement.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fucking statement.
Listen, it's true. It's true.
But explain it for us, because
Yeah.
I think that, like, when you said it, I got it completely.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth an explanation from you, because it's so great.
Yeah. I am becoming somebody who is more and more comfortable with complexity. I think that growing up, we hear things like joy and love, and we are made to feel like they're very simple concepts, or they're easy, or they're one-dimensional. Or they feel good all the time, right? Like we when we hear love stories and we see movies or read books about love stories, we feel like all they do is are like, and then the stars, and it makes us feel like love is supposed to be simple and easy and feel good at all times. But it's not true,
It's
because
not at
love
all,
is like, if you think about any relationship with anybody who you love, whether it's a child or a partner or a friend, love requires accountability. It requires difficult conversations. It requires sacrifice. It requires compromise. It requires a lot of things that are real hard. Real hard. And I believe that in order for us to have a joyful life, we have to be full human beings. Because a joy that is not complex is not true. It's not real. There's something different. It's like happiness or something, some feel-good thing. But like joy comes from your soul. It's like the thing in you that you can spark no matter what's going on, right? Like, I sat in my father's hospital room and literally watched him take his last breath. And my first emotion was joy, because I felt the gratitude of having had him in my life for so long. And I felt the gratitude of all the things that he taught me and showed me. And so I was in a room full of people who are boo-hoo crying, and I was like literally jumping for joy and crying tears of wonderfulness and like literally having a prayer celebration of his life. So
the fact that you had him.
Right.
Was,
because I'm like, he was such an amazing man. Some people get him for 6 minutes. I had him for like my whole entire life. And so my point is, joy, true joy that comes from within, that cannot be extinguished, is very complex, and it requires that you're able to be someone who is accountable, to be someone who is honest, to be someone who understands complex emotions and has the courage to show up in your fullness at all times, even when it's difficult, especially when it requires courage, because you're scared to say the thing, or scared to do the thing, or scared to take the leap, or scared to follow your dream, or scared to do whatever. Like, you cannot, I don't believe that you can find true joy if you're not willing to take those risks. So that's what I meant.
I told you she was special, didn't I, Alex? I totally. I think what I love hearing you speak is what you say makes so much sense. And I learn off you so much. You know, I remember my mum said as well once. She said, like, happiness, you have to work on being happy. And I remember thinking, what is she talking about? Like, you just happy. And then and as I've got older, I've definitely realized I have to do so many things to try and stay happy, you know, like from eating well to working out to just every single thing it's a daily mission. You know,
and it requires presence. You cannot phone joy in. You can't just be going through your life and then find the joy. You can't.
No,
that's not how this works.
And I feel like sometimes we expect it. We expect that it's like, well, where is it? And where's the love? And where's the joy and the happiness?
There is this movie. I feel like the biggest disservice that people do to their children is not to talk to them about how hard life is.
Oh my God!
And I don't think that. I don't think it's appropriate for very small kids. I'm not saying you should be like, life sucks so bad. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, like, the the expectation that children have that everything is going to be exactly the way that they think it's going to be is unreasonable and really dangerous for their own mental health. I watched this movie. I don't remember what year it came out, but it's called The Skeleton Twins.
Oh, yeah.
It was Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig starred in this movie. I'm going to write a scene about this movie in my TV show because it's like, was such a huge moment in my life. I was going through something. I was like so upset, and my escape is a movie. So whenever I feel like the world is too much, I go to the movies. It could be 2 p.m. I'm like, I'm out. What's playing? Anyway, so I went to go to this movie, and one of them was having I think one of them tried to commit suicide in the film, and they were like having a very hard time with life. And the other twin was like, everybody is disappointed. Like literally every human being on the planet is experiencing disappointment. And like, do you think that the woman who works at the grocery store woke up when she was 12 and was like, one day I'm going to work at a grocery store? No disrespect to grocery store workers. Or like even the person, they were like, even like Madonna or Beyonce has disappointment. Like President Barack Obama has disappointment. Like the Dalai Lama has disappointment. Every single human being on planet Earth that is alive and breathing has experienced disappointment. And they were like, disappointment is kind of the human condition. It's kind of what we do. You have these lofty ideas about your life, about love, about work, about money, about politics, about whatever. It never pans out that way.
Well, yeah, I remember J. Cole said it, and I was like, it stuck with me so much. Where he was like, growing up, I thought if I got the success, if I got the cars, if I got the awards, if I got all these things. That's
never true.
And he got all of them, and he was just like,
miserable.
I'm just the same fucking guy here, unhappy. It's just like, I mean, you're right. It's like whether you didn't, whether you became something you didn't want to become, or you got everything you ever wanted,
and you still are just a person.
Yeah, no.
It's like disappointment, and the skill of being able to process that disappointment and to process the grief of disappointment and still be able to understand your value as a human being and the power of love and the power of connection and community. To me, that is a secret to joy. To be able to be like, I understand that my life is not the way I wanted it to be, the way I thought it was going to be, the way I wish it was going to be, and still I understand that I'm an important person on this planet and that my life and my dreams still have value, that there are people who love me, and that I can find the joy and the value and the purpose in my own life, even in the midst of all that. To me, that is joy.
I mean, that was amazingly said, and I think that needs to be spoken about more, right? Like I remember the biggest moment when I was young, thinking like, why did I not know this? It was like going from like what we called primary school to secondary school, which I think yours is like something high school, something to high
middle school to high school.
And the first day at secondary school, I got like, we moved to this kind of small town. I had all this crazy kind of racism stuff. I was just getting battered every day at school, and I was just like, how did someone not tell me that like this is what was going to happen?
That's
like
right.
I was just getting beaten up all the time. I was, all these like mad like kind of race attacks. It's just like I was just like, how and I guess
why didn't I know this was going to happen?
Yeah,
because you didn't even know it was possible.
No,
like it wasn't even a thing, and then you're experiencing it. I'm sorry that happened to you. You didn't deserve it.
Yeah, it was just like...
Wow.
Anyway,
and this speaks very much to the statement around imagination, because you were living in someone else's reality.
Yeah.
Like those people decided that your life and your soul and your beauty was not valuable enough to protect from people doing that to you.
You know the crazy thing that happened as well when I just went back there?
Yeah.
Because I don't drink now, right? I'm sober and I'm standing in this bar, and obviously everyone's like drunk, and this guy comes up to me and he's like, "You're Emil Nav, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What's this guy going to say?" Or whatever. And he's like, "I called you the N-word when I was
no.
Yeah, when I was a kid." And And I wanted to say sorry. I've always wanted to say
Oh.
sorry to you.
Oh my God.
And he said my father used that word
See?
all the time. And I remembered who this kid was. This kid I was 11 and he was 8 when it happened. And I remember where it happened because I was like a kid, like, because there was obviously lots of teens that did it. And I remember my friend said, "Oh, that's because his dad." I remember when it happened. I was 11, he was 8. It happened in the park. He did that, and I was like, "What's going on?" My friend said, "His dad says a lot of that stuff."
Oh no.
But it was crazy. This was 2 months ago. This was literally last
That's
night.
wild.
Yeah.
And even that boy's dad, like, he came from a long line of people who were using hate and vitriol towards people who he didn't understand or know. Yeah. And that is like, somebody decided that was a good idea. Yeah. Generations ago, somebody was like, see them people over there? From now on, this is how we're going to treat them. This is what we're going to call them. This is what we're going to do. That, somebody came up with that through their imagination process, right? Yeah. And so much of what we live in, like, so I was talking this morning about the global economy, and because it's Friday, so and I was talking about, like, the principles of people being commoditized to the point where they're identity is wrapped up in what they do and how much money they make. Yeah. As opposed to, like, who they are, how they treat people, or just the fact that you're born, you're valuable because...
So true.
Because you made it to planet Earth. Like, it took a lot for you to get here. And that assignment of value to humanity came from just a regular human being. Yeah. Who just made a decision and enrolled other people in that decision to the point now where we're generation, and we have a global economy that's based on money being the most important thing over people, over planet, over animals, over literally anything, over life. Somebody made that up. That's not a natural occurrence.
It's crazy.
We can do the same thing. We can make a new decision about what we want life to look like, who gets valued, how we move, that's why I do work in culture, because who we decide we are and the core values that we decide to play out every day in an embodied way literally dictates everything from the price of corn to who gets to be the president.
Reason we wanted to start this podcast is to talk to fellow creatives about the industry and how they operate in it, how they got in it, how they operate in it. I guess, just from all these conversations we're having and all of these kind of visions for the future and these new imaginations and stuff, like, how are you trying to funnel all of that into your creativity? And what outlets are you kind of focused on? Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say that I think that the most powerful way to change the future is through creativity.
Well said.
I really think that. I feel like those of us who are spending our time inside of our imagination all the time have the best possibility of reimagining the world, because we're just so used to making new things. So, like, why not make a whole new world? You can make a new movie. You can make a new world.
100%. No, I agree.
So the interesting thing is, like, it took me a long time to claim my stake as a creative. I spent a lot of time as a young adult being afraid to say that I was a creative and afraid to engage my artistry. And so I would, like, write songs in secret. I had, like, a whole 2 years where I just went to a pawn shop and bought a guitar and would be at my house at night writing. And I just would never tell anyone or never share it with anyone. And it was because I was surrounded by artists who were amazing, amazing artists. And I would be like, well, if
you were on tour with Stevie Wonder, right?
I was. Like, that's a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, I knew you would like that.
Right? So if you're, like, surrounded by literally the best artists in the world, then I, at the time, was like, well, if I can't be that good, then I must not be good at all.
No, it's tough.
It is.
I know the feeling.
But it made me, at some point I realized that my creativity and my creative expression was so much a part of my identity that I had I had to do it, or else I wasn't being my full self.
I talk about all the time. We talk about all the time that like your POV and
That's
your
right.
perspective
That's right.
is only yours. So there's
Only yours.
Yeah, so you may not be at the level of someone else, but your voice, your POV, your perspective
That's right.
is
And
totally
to your point
unique.
earlier, like if one person heard it and it's like, wow.
100%.
But also like what I learned, like when I started doing these trainings where I was like teaching people to use their creativity for social impact, and this is way before I was really deep into my own creative practice, and I was like, oh, art is about other people. Creativity is about you.
Mm-hmm.
So like just the act of writing, the act of singing, the act of knitting a scarf, the act of dancing, like all of the ways that we can be creative, just like allowing yourself to be free in those moments, and the things that you learn about yourself and about life, and the physical experience of the freedom of creative expression is so important for people. It's so important. Like if I drew every day and burned everyone and no one ever saw it, the power of drawing those things every day would change my life.
I feel like that speaks to what me and you have said, because Alex basically, you know, Alex works at Ammolite, he edits, he's deep in the job most of the time, but I know you say that like most nights you just jam out on the piano and it's for yourself.
And I will say I really related strongly to what you just said, because I grew up as a drummer, and I was like almost like prodigy level drummer.
Oh, and that's right.
So I got with other kids who in their various instruments were like that level too. And so I got to the point where like I would jump on the piano and just start like picking some things out, and someone would literally go, "Get off of that, like I'm the pianist." You know what I mean? So I developed, you know, because it was this sort of like, you know, New York East Coast high achieving nonsense world. So like I literally got in my head like, oh, I'm not good at anything but playing the drums, you know.
Sweet baby.
And it took me years to just like decide I would play the piano, and just I would start writing my own songs and like doing my own solo music, and I have now for a few years, and it was like, oh, like the feeling at the end of it. It's
that
so
is
good.
what I'm talking about. That feeling of being free.
Yeah.
100%.
Because that's what we're all looking for. Like that is what joy looks like. That feeling of freedom where you like no ceiling. No, right?
And in a way, this podcast was a bit of that for me.
Absolutely.
Like, I was just like, I just want to do something, not just for me, obviously, I want, you know, everyone else is involved, but just something that wasn't tied to some other mission, other success thing or money, or it was just like, let's just do something to like have fun and like, or whatever, just to like, just to do it, to feel like something that's ours ultimately, you know?
It's really important to have that. It's really important. But in a capitalist society, it's hard to do things that don't produce.
I agree, and don't matter. Like I feel like everyone, especially with this social media stuff, it's like, oh, you have to be like seen to be doing it. If you're not, it's like that joke, but it's not actually a joke.
Instagram, it didn't happen.
Exactly, it's like that's the joke, but it's true. Yeah. People act like they're joking, but then they're filming it and uploading it. You know, it's like, and I'm, you know, and I actually have to. You know, I try and stop myself from doing it a bit. You know, now I try to live in them. It sounds cheesy, but like it's that simple thing of like when I'm at a show now, music show. It's like I have to remind to like not pull my phone out at the big best moment. It's like no, like
just be there.
Yeah, watch the big best moment.
Yeah, 100%.
That was. I had one question, a good question I wanted to ask, just because I always think about the people watching, you know, and I think about like the one kid who's trying to like do what you're doing, you know, like, because the social impact space, let's say, like, which even I don't really understand much of how it works. You know, I know obviously that like I really care about the future of humanity and our minds and mental health and so I'm, you know, doing whatever I think is right, having the right conversations or whatever, but like if there's a young person at home now sitting and watching this and being like, I want to help the world, but I don't know how, you know, which is something I think probably I ask a lot. Like I want to do stuff for the world, I don't just want to make music videos, I don't just want to do this. Like how would you start? What would you say to someone who a slightly selfish question, but and also for
it's a good question though, Because the way, like when I first decided I wanted to do that, that's why I started a record label.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to change the world. What changes the world? What changes my world? Music changes my world. Let's make music.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like two things. One, I think anything that you feel excited and passionate about can be done in the service of the things that you believe in. I'm like, if you're a bus driver, if you're a line cook, if you're a president, if you're a ballerina, you can be those things with the intention of healing and liberation for people, right? And I think I think intention is so important. And then I also think that there's like, I talk about embodiment a lot because we are embodying a set of core values. Like in every moment of our lives, we're embodying a set of core values, right? Whether we're aware of it or not. And being intentional about how you embody your core values is really important. So if you're like, I want to be a person who moves in love at all times, or if I want to be a person who gives people grace all the time, or I want to be a person who believes that money is the most important thing, whatever it is that you believe in, you have to move slowly enough to be able to put those things in the center of your life. So if you're like, I'm a filmmaker and my commitment is to live out an embodied core value of love at all times, then you need to think about everything you do and be like, is this loving? Is this what love looks like? Yeah. Right? Like if you're in an argument with your spouse or you're leading your team, you're like, am I leading with love? Am I debating in this conversation from a place of love? Or have I slipped into ego? Have I slipped into patriarchy? Have I slipped into whatever the thing is because it's so easy to slip into the things that are harmful. It's so easy.
I keep smirking because I feel that like when I ask you questions, your answers are so beneath, like they're so depthy that they're like so amazing. Like, I have to like take them, like
I understand
because I know I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's like the face value question of the answer to that is like, well, you should join a charity in your local town, and you should.
I don't believe in charity.
But no, I wouldn't get into that as well. Neither do I. I think it's a weird word, but you're so right. It's like set that intention of like, if what you believe is that you want to help heal people in this, like, or whatever,
heal people.
Yeah, no, I think that.
And also the thing that you want to project out onto the world, like how are you embodying that in your relationship with yourself? So if you want to be a person to help heal other people and you are walking around unhealed, you need to take a pause and start to think about what it looks like for you to do that. Because we often believe that change and transformation is outside of us. And I also think that a lot of people who feel super passionate about change is because of something that they've experienced themselves that they don't want other people to experience. Yeah. Right? And so they don't do the work to heal themselves so that they actually can help heal other people from a whole place, like a healed place. And then you end up just going out and doing a lot of harm because you don't even have the emotional wherewithal to be able to actually even be in a conversation like that.
Totally.
And you burn yourself out, right? Like all these people who are doing social impact work and they're like, I want to help heal the world. And they're working 80 hours a week to try to heal. Like that's no, the goal is not for you to burn out and for everyone else to be well. If the goal is wellness, then we all must be well. We all must be well. We all must be mentally whatever. We all must be emotionally. We all have to have that. It's not the goal is not for anyone to get left behind. Yeah. Right? So you just gotta intention and embodiment. That's what I would say. And one more thing I would say.
Yes.
I feel like, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, just about like truth and how joy requires radical honesty. There is so much harm that has been done on the planet Earth over the last 1,000 years that we don't acknowledge, don't know about, and don't investigate. And so if you actually want to, if you're like, the world's so crazy, I feel like I need to help, but you don't actually understand what's occurred to get us to this point in the first place, then I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I have quite a selfish question.
Tell me.
Actually, it's I just more would like to hear your perspective on it, because I think you've obviously just got amazing perspectives. Like, how do you think people should deal with like low frequency emotions?
Ooh.
Like, for me, things like jealousy and anger and things like this that occur in my daily life that I don't want to feel. And I don't want to be jealous of people. I don't want to be angry, and I don't want to be these things, but they do inevitably come inside of me. Like, how do you...
I'm so happy you asked me that, because I'm dealing with that right now. I am managing some feelings that I am not enjoying the feelings.
Yeah.
And
they're not good for us.
No, they're not. They're not.
Jealousy sucks.
Jealousy is the worst.
No, it's the worst. It's the first thing on my
It's the
thing.
worst.
I kind of added anger and pain, but jealousy is the thing, because I just know it's very complex, like what we talk about. I know it's, if I analyze the real meaning behind the feeling.
I have maybe like when I was in, like right after college, I was like I was jealous of a friend of mine, like very, very jealous of her. And I didn't like that. I felt like that about somebody who I love so much. I was like, this is not right. It's not right for either one of us. It's not good for the world. Like, you have to figure this out. And I can't remember where I read or heard this, but I came to understand that jealousy is just the fear that what you see in someone else is something that you don't have access to. So it's like, if I had an ice cream and you're like, oh, I want ice cream, I'm going to go get me an ice cream, is one thing. But if you saw me have an ice cream and you're like, I could never have that and I want it real bad, then that's where the jealousy comes from.
Interesting.
And so I have this like working definition of like, when I have that feeling, I understand it's just scarcity. It's just me being afraid that the thing I see in them, I cannot have access to. And so I remind myself that I am an abundant being, that I have a divine right to abundance, and that I can manifest whatever I want. And then I can get myself out of the jealousy.
Exactly why I asked you that question. What an answer.
Yes. It's hard, though, because when you get caught up in the
is.
moment and you just have that feeling, and sometimes you can't snap yourself out of it.
I think it's also much easier as you get older.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't it? Like, I feel like a similar, like, if I see something that I get jealous of, I'm like, why am I jealous of
That's
that?
right.
Like, and I could get that if I wanted that or whatever. But when you're young, I think I was so jealous in my like, early 20s. Now I think I was a young man, and I was just testosterone and anger and alcohol. And like, I just think it kind of ate up a lot of my 20s. And I feel for, young people, because I just remember, and I just think this world now, if I was then, like being able to see this much, this was just me seeing other people win awards and
like
things in front of me.
Yeah.
Now it's like you can wake up in the morning and see 100 people's lives in 5 minutes,
And the best, most polished version of 100 people's lives. So they're like meant to make you feel jealous in the first place, But then when you're a kid, you often don't have that, like, you haven't done the work yet to know. Like, it's easy for me to say what I just said right now because I have a deep abundance practice as part of my spiritual work. But when I was 16 or even 25, I did not know that I was an abundant being capable of manifesting whatever I wanted. I just thought my life sucked. I thought I sucked. I had terrible self-esteem. Terrible. So how are you supposed to know that the thing you see in front of you that you really, really want is something you can have if you don't believe in yourself? It's not possible.
And I think manifestation is something just to touch on, because I'm sure you have an opinion, but I think about it a lot, and I talk about it a lot with some of my friends who like aren't spiritual at all, and I'm like, I'm not. Look at it like this. To me, it's not spiritual, right? Like I think I have to move my arm over there. I move my arm over there. Like I think I want that thing, I'm going to go and get that thing. It's not, so I don't know, I talk about it with my friends a lot because it's like, oh, you're going to manifest that. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go and get it.
Sure am.
I'm going to go and get what I want. Like, I'm going to go and get a coffee.
That's right.
You could say I'm manifesting going
That's
to get
right.
that coffee, you know?
That's right. It's less spiritual and more energetic. It's really about the
Yeah.
mechanics of, it's quantum physics. It's
Yeah.
not about God. It's about physics, which some would say is the same thing. I would say it's the same thing. But like it's a basic scientific principle about like the cyclical nature of energy.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. And also like what is that thing that people say, like we're all made of the same stuff? Like we, like us and the outer space and the stars and the moon and the sun, like are literally all the same elements,
Yeah.
just in different configurations. And if it is true that we're all connected, and like, you know how some interactions you can feel the energy, you can feel that.
Yeah.
You can there's an obvious exchange of energy that you can actually perceive physically. I don't see why that wouldn't be true of everything else in the universe too.
100%.
I mean, it's physics, y'all.
Well, you know, as we're coming to a close, got a few more questions.
Come on, let's go.
You know, I think that obviously the podcast is focused a lot around the kind of industry and the creative industry, and you know, me and you have had a lot of conversations about, and I think it comes with the world changing, but I believe, and you know this, and I know you do, like that there needs to be so much change within our industry, within the kind of film, music, you know, entertainment industry. Like, what are your wishes for the future in this game? It's a big question, I know.
I have a big conversation about ownership.
I agree 100.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think about this all the time.
I feel like in a culture that is all about that people, that the assumption is that the person with the most money has the best ideas. That's like our culture is like, oh, you're rich, you must be so smart, right? So that how that translates into the entertainment world is like the person who's sitting in the CEO or the C-suite or the whatever is the person who has the best creative ideas or has the right to critique your creative ideas. The person who has literally no experience with filmmaking is greenlighting or deciding who is getting the grant or deciding whatever. And my highest wish for our industry is that the creatives are running the show. And that I was saying this morning, like it's way easier for somebody with a creative skill and an open heart to learn how to run a company than it is for somebody who's just a regular suit to learn how to be creative and expansive in their ideas.
So true.
Yeah,
right? And so like
true.
for me, just like the work we do in communities, I'm like, I want the people who live in this neighborhood to own everything. I want the people who are making music and making film and making TV and making books to be the ones who own their intellectual property and the mechanisms to distribute and create those things too, because for multiple reasons. One, because the art will just get better, right? If we're the ones who are like, hey, what are we going to fund? Like, I trust your judgment and your taste way more than any studio head I've ever met in my life, or certainly any music company head. They are the worst.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
That's a bad scene.
Yes, and it becomes like way more human because the decisions are made based on like what is good, what is open, what is expansive, what is heart opening, as opposed to like what do we think will make the most money based on what's made money before. So like just humanity will be better off because we'll have such a broader variety of things to choose from if creatives are making the decisions. And finally, the artists will actually get their just due financially. Like the amount of money that an artist makes versus the amount of money that a company that works with artists makes is disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting and unjust and out of alignment with the new way. It's not the loving way. It's not the vulnerable way. It's not the community way for me to literally put my whole consciousness on film and then for me to get like a nickel and you just made $1 million.
That's the thing about, you know, everyone had Spotify raps recently.
Yes.
And the thing that's so wild to me is just imagining like, yeah, that person who gets that indie artist who ends up getting like 1 million plays or something in the year. Like they're making like what, $700 or like something, a pittance for that. And the person who just designed the button that someone goes, I like this. Like that person's making 200 grand, living in the suburbs, has a family, has a whole thing. So it's not just like that an artist is poor. It's like that's like a social upheaval that like is just de-emphasizing like the power of artists across all levels of society, you know, because
100%.
they don't have the money anymore.
100%.
Someone else's money. You know?
I think that like this move towards shifting the culture of the economy and like actually having a restorative economy, a regenerative economy, an economy that works for more people, that has to be what we're talking about in the entertainment. It has to be what we're talking about in entertainment. We have to be talking about how to interact with the money in a different way. We have to, or else like it's only going to get worse because folks like the people who have the most money are trying to figure out how to get more and more and more and more, which means that the people on the other side have to get less and less and less and less. And so literally the only way I feel like this is going to be a viable industry at some point where people actually get to be free and creative and expressive and transformative is if we change the business model. I don't see any other way. And I'm not even saying that those folks should not be making 200 grand. Like, you should. You did something important and happen, but like, can we share?
Yeah.
Like, can we partner? Can we share? Can we be cooperatively owning these things as opposed to like just you decide and you get to take the check and you get to go on vacation and I am out here.
I keep thinking about this and talking about this. It's like, why does it have to not be good for someone in the equation?
Right.
Why can't
That's
just
right.
everyone win? Like,
That's right.
you know, even in the brand space, like why
That's
can't the
right.
brand get what they need, the director get everyone wins. Everyone made money, everyone won, it's like, I don't know why there has to be that thing of like,
because our core, like scarcity is such a core part of our culture. Like the idea that we should be sharing and that if we share, there'll be enough at the end of the day is antithetical to what people actually believe.
Yeah,
right?
It's like what you said about that guy who the investor guy, where
Right.
he's like, I've worked it out. I've worked out how much I need and the buffer.
That's right.
And anything above that, I don't need.
You don't need it, and that is not normal.
Yeah.
Like until and unless that is the normal way that we interact with each other from a commercial standpoint, I mean, people hoarding, like, wow. These people that have like literally billions of dollars, why?
Yeah.
Why? What do you like? You cannot. You literally can't. You can't. It's impossible to spend that money unless you do something dumb like go buy Twitter. But we don't have to talk about that right now.
But what if I need a $600 million yacht for my mental health?
I mean, you got bigger problems, sir.
I got a couple of final thoughts.
Yes, come on.
One.
Yes.
Is from anyone who's watching this who doesn't know you and who is not a fan.
Yeah.
You've not even mentioned half or a quarter of the amazing things that you are doing. So please Google Anasa, get in Anasa. just you need to see what Anasa is doing to change the world ultimately.
Oh, wow.
So I love that our conversation just made all those twists and turns, but you know, you really haven't spoken to all these amazing things you're doing and you are doing.
I honestly feel like I haven't done my best work yet.
I mean,
I feel like when I unleash my whole imagination onto the world, then that's when I really will be doing something.
Anasa Troutman, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I was going to say.
Yes.
This has felt short and felt like this. we could have spoken
we could talk for 3 more hours.
But
yes, but that's how we always are.
And come back. We're here.
Anytime.
We're here.
Oh my God.
We'll wrap up another set of questions. Alex can make a new tune for the event. You want to play us out, Alex Russick?
I love you, Emil. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Wow. Anasa Troutman.
That was great.
Unreal, right? I mean, she's just so special, and just the way she talks, just the way she can get so to the depth of something.
Well, it's like awesome how, like, she would say things that were so unexpected, yet as soon as like you started to absorb what she was meaning, you're like, oh, that's so true though. But
Yeah.
I just would never have framed things that way. Like I would have never just
Yeah.
thought of things that way.
No, it's almost like when you listen to a comedian, they tell a joke and you're like, oh my God, it's so funny because it's so true.
They like reframed reality in
Yeah,
a way you've not seen before.
And I do mean it when I say this. Like, Anasa is doing unbelievable things. Like,
I bet.
she took investment to buy this massive building in Memphis that she's redoing, and she's, you know, she's just doing all this amazing stuff that she obviously didn't, you know, touch on, but become a fan of Anasa Troutman. That's what I would say. And
I'm a fan now.
yeah, no, I mean it was one of the most special conversations I've ever had. So, thank you, Anasa. And this week we're not going to do top 5. I don't feel after that conversation it matters that I like peas. You know, I just don't think it does. No. It doesn't. But I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Please like, follow, subscribe, follow us on the journey. We don't know where it's going. Just more amazing guests, more amazing conversations, and play us out, Alex Russick.